Hello everyone and welcome back to Closet Gaming. Today we are going to take a look at City of Brass. This first-person action roguelite promises intense action, procedural generated inspired by ancient Arabic themes and tons of replayability. Whether it can deliver on this promise is the question we will try to answer today. City of Brass is available on Steam for €16.79 or your regional equivalent. First-person roguelites are still somewhat of a rarity in today's gaming market. They do exist, but often they aren't that great, and it requires a great deal of skill on the developer side of things to create an experience that is fun. So far, the most fun I ever had in a first-person roguelite was in the game Ziggurat. So let's take a look at City of Brass and see whether I can enjoy it more. The general idea behind City of Brass is quite simple and similar to most other roguelites. You're a guy, and you're exploring someplace to get the treasure or fulfill some sort of destiny by getting towards the end. Here, it's the second option. Your goal is to get to the center of the city and destroy the genies that hold a curse over the city, thus breaking it free from the curse. By the way, that's all there essentially is to the story of the game. Let's start by taking a look at how exactly you do that in City of Brass. And as you might assume, the way you do it is by killing enemies. You get two pieces of gears towards that, a sword and a whip. The sword is really basic, just swing it around and hope to hit enemies so you can kill them. The whip, on the other hand, is the cool thing that is in City of Brass. It allows you to do quite a few cool things. The first, and the one you will be doing the most, is stunning your enemies. The second is its use to trigger traps so you can get over them. The third, and the one I think most people will be using the least, is to get hold of items laying around the levels. These items can be just things that give you more gold or items you can actually use in combat, like bombs or lanterns filled with flammable oil. So, how exactly does it feel? Pretty decent. Somewhat easy at times. I honestly think the whip is way too overpowered. You can stun lock groups of enemies, making the combat section of the game almost a complete non-issue if you're patient and cautious. Just be sure to keep all the enemies stunned, slash them, whip them, and rinse and repeat until they are all dead and you can progress towards the next room. I think this is actually caused by the stun lasting too long, as it lasts for 3 whole seconds. And you can whip every single second, meaning you could potentially keep up to 3 enemies perma-stunned. That's just a bit too much in my opinion. And if the enemies can be perma-stunned, do they even pose a threat? Well, yeah. Depending on what type of enemy is standing against you and how many of them are there. The enemy variety is actually pretty decent. You have your simple-minded zombies that just try to ram you at high speed, skeleton knights using a variety of different weapons, archers, magic users, weird abominations, and genies. The genies actually have an interesting mechanic attached to them, as they can't really be killed. They can be wished away, but remember, you only got 3 wishes. Then there are the bosses that are called gatekeepers. These appear every 3 levels and in the last level as well. They're all pretty interesting bosses. Each has their own special mechanics, like the first one having an energy shield that you first need to knock down by whipping his energy orbs back at him, or the second boss summoning clones of herself. My only real problem with the bosses is the first one, as he's the first magic user you encounter in the game, and until that point you haven't had the chance to discover that you can actually ship magic projectiles back at their caster. I wish this mechanic was covered in the tutorial, but once you figure it out, they are all fun encounters. The last thing that will be obstructing your way towards the center of the city and the final boss are traps. So many freaking traps. Honestly, I was rarely dying to the enemies, but I was constantly dying to the traps. And to make it clear, there is an option in the mutators, at which we will take a look in a short while, to reduce their number. But even then, I feel that the number of traps is pretty high. So if you are a type of person who doesn't enjoy constantly thinking about, is that a trap? Or that? Or that? I highly suggest you use that particular mutator. So, the mutators. If you have ever played Unreal Tournament, you know what mutators are. They're a special setting you can use to make the gameplay different, and in City of Brass they come in two forms: burdens and blessings. Burdens make the game harder by making the enemies hit harder or making them faster and similar stuff. The blessings are the opposite. They make the game easier by stuff like increasing your damage or, as previously mentioned, lowering the number of traps in the game. It's a good system that allows you to get exactly the gameplay you want, and I actually suggest using it and not only the blessings. My favorite burden is respawning of the enemies, forcing you not to linger around and move fast. The last thing we will take a look at in the gameplay section is the upgrade system. You just can't have a roguelite without some kind of upgrade system. And to be honest, this is probably the part I liked the least when it came to gameplay. Don't get me wrong, the upgrades themselves are good. Starting with very common things like a whip that has a longer range, or a weapon that attacks faster but deals less damage. But once you get your favorite set of gear, there is no point in focusing on upgrades anymore, as they don't stack in any way. They instead replace each other. This completely removes the need to search for loot so you can afford to upgrade. You only need to have enough gold to occasionally heal yourself at the healing genie. I really feel if the upgrades stacked, it would give more incentive to explore the levels, and would also allow the devs to make the enemies a bit harder, as they would know you'd get stronger over time as well. Okay, let's do a little mid-conclusion. Gameplay wise, City of Brass is actually pretty good, even though I had plenty of complaints. The combat does feel a bit too easy at times, but you can change that with the mutators to a decent degree. I wish there was a bigger variety in how you use your sword, like a combo system or different attacks. Even just a light and a strong attack would make it feel much more varied. The saving grace is the whip. It allows you to do so many cool things that you never really feel frustrated by the combat. So that's enough about the gameplay. Let's now take a look at the graphics. The style is pretty obviously influenced by Arabic myths. More specifically by the Arabian Nights, also known as 1001 Nights. It's a good choice for an art style, and it fits the genre really well. The second thing we should talk about when it comes to the graphics is their fidelity. And this is where City of Brass excels. The game looks amazing, especially when you compare it to the rest of the genre. The closest thing in terms of the graphical fidelity is probably Immortal Redneck, and while these two do obviously partially compete for the same audience, they also don't, as Immortal Redneck puts more focus on ranged combat, while City of Brass focuses on melee combat. But if the graphical fidelity is important for you and you want a roguelike game, you really don't have a better option than City of Brass. When it comes to the sound design of City of Brass, I was somewhat unimpressed. Arabic tones and melodies can be quite beautiful, but they just feel underutilized in City of Brass, especially in combat. It's not that they aren't there at all, but I wish like a flute melody would accompany you through your journey. The enemies, traps, and combat sounds, on the other hand, those are done really well. I think this is sort of related to the graphical fidelity side of things, as the same care that was given to the fidelity of the graphics was given to the fidelity of the sound. As we are slowly coming towards the end of the review, it is now time to take a look at the performance side of things. And here, I have zero complaints. The game works well, has no real glitches or bugs that I saw, and hasn't crashed on me either. Kudos to the coding team. So, in conclusion, City of Brass is a good roguelike adventure game. The combat, while not amazing, serves the purpose of the game quite well, And because it is a procedurally generated game, it gives amazing amounts of value due to the fact that it is infinitely replayable. And if you prefer games with high graphical fidelity, you really don't have that many options in the genre. So if you're a fan of the genre, definitely give City of Brass a chance. And if you're just looking for something fun, yeah, sure, I can recommend it as well. So that's it for today, guys. Hope you liked the review, and if you did, please consider giving us a thumbs up here on YouTube and subscribing to the channel. And comment if you had something you would like to add. See you guys later with more gaming content.